Good morning, everyone. I think Alex is on mute right now, actually, but it's bright and early here in Canada. I'm in Toronto. Clock just struck 6 in the morning. Alex out back west at 3 in the morning. But thank you to everyone who's joining us this morning to preview Canada versus Japan, kicking off the Tokyo Olympics for Team Canada and the women's national team. Of course, Canada beat Mexico 5-0 in women's softball earlier this morning. I think that one started around 2 Eastern time. And it's been perfect so far for Canada today. And now it's time for the women's soccer team, which, of course, coming off two fantastic Olympic performances in London and then Rio. It does seem as though Alex is still on mute. A few technical difficulties here in the early in the morning. Maybe if he unplugs his headphones, we might be able to find something out. But we do have some idea of what Canada is coming into this tournament with. It's a very talented roster that Canada has. There's a lot of youth that's in this team as well, because this team is not the team that it once was. Diana Matheson is no longer there. Christine Sinclair, she's 38 years old now. So you never exactly know what you're going to get with this team as Alex tries to figure out what he's trying to do and get back in here. Alex, can we hear you? Alex, you want to try unplugging your headphones? Apologies to our viewers here. I know Sebastian Pereira is tuning in also from Vancouver early for him. But yeah, a few technical difficulties. Apologies for that, especially as Alex is definitely the expert on this area. It was working a little bit earlier, but if we take a look at Canada's lineup, there are some interesting names starting for Canada as it goes. Of course, in net starts with Stephanie Labbe, and I was sort of thinking that we might see Kaylin Sheridan, especially with the rumors that she might be going to PSG. Definitely a talented goalkeeper, and she earned her first call up. She's had a stellar season with the New York, New Jersey Gotham, another fantastic rebranding as well in the NWSL. But Stephanie Labbe, who's been tending the net for Canada for the last several years, ever since Erin McLeod went down with her injuries. She's manning the net tonight, or I guess this morning, and everyone. And then Christine Sinclair, of course, leading the line up top for Canada. It's her 300th cap. I know there were some worries that she might be getting her 300th cap in a friendly that was behind closed doors. I believe it was against the Netherlands before, and ended 3-3. But she didn't get her cap then, and she's getting her 300th cap tonight. So definitely a pat on the back for Christine Sinclair, of course, sitting at 186 goals as the all-time leading international goal scorer in men's and women's football. And then in the midfield, you have someone like Quinn, who's been fantastic throughout the She Believes Cup. She comes in, or they come into the tournament as playing very confident football right now in the NWSL. And Alex, can we hear you yet? Can't hear Alex yet. We might have to shut this down and give it another shot. Alex is going to try and pop back in, but definitely welcome into the show. It should be a good tournament. We will try and get this back going in just a second. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. You can actually hear Alex now. We will be here. So
all
Alex,
right.
I know.
Is third time the charm for me?
Exactly. We can finally hear you.
All right. Well, apologies for that. It's nice, bright and early. Obviously, not using my usual studio setup, but it's been a roller coaster ride. Obviously, those who joined us last night for the Vancouver Whitecaps, but hopefully, the show was the peak of your evening. Because obviously, that game wasn't a good one. Here's to hoping today's game for Canada is a lot more entertaining for those who dared stay up and watch the other offerings on display. I mean, Great Britain, good 2-0 win over Chile. Lots to like there. An Ellen White brace. Brazil curb stomping China. Surprising result. China's usually very solid in these kinds of tournament, but Brazil's got lots of talent and they're a top team for a reason. Meanwhile, Sweden's taking out the number one ranked U.S.
3-0 right now against the U.S. Now, there's going to be a lot of navel gazing for the U.S. coming off this loss. But think if you're the US, yes, it does end a 40 plus game unbeaten streak, and they've been incredible throughout that run. But Sweden is a good team, and Sweden, good football teams can win games on their day. And Sweden, it's clearly their day right now, midway through the second half. They're leading 3-0. I have it on another screen here. And they're going to get this win, but this should not worry the US at all. Maybe even helps the US because they'll go in as, say, the underdog and be able to take out a higher seed in the knockout round. So really don't worry about losing to Sweden. Sweden's a very good team and could win on any day.
Yeah, well, but we also have to remember the U.S. didn't medal last tournament, so if they do miss out on 2 Olympic podiums in a row, they will certainly hit the panic button. But otherwise, yeah, for Canada, this is a big game. You play the host, never an ideal matchup. Looking over to the lineup, I mean, pretty expected. I threw out a projected lineup on Twitter last night, and pretty much outfield is as expected, zero surprises. I mean, there was a question in goal. Do you see Stephanie Lebe's experience? You see someone like Kaylin Sheridan. You know what? Not that surprised to see Lebe for the big game. I do think we might see Sheridan against Chile later on in the week, but I think it's good to start with Lebe in goal. Flat back four. Ashley Lawrence going to be very active on that right side. Kadisha Buchanan, Shalina Zadorsky, the two rocks at the back. Alicia Chapman, always going to show up in these kinds of big games through the midfield. Quinn, obviously offering a two-way presence. Going to be good to see them inside there, along with Jesse Fleming playing a little higher up in more of a transitional role. Desiree Scott is the number 6. And then the front three, Nichelle Prince and Janine Becky playing as out-and-out wingers, will be expected to provide the speed, the getting in behind, getting in the box, and obviously Christine Sinclair, Canada's striker, Canada's star, Canada's captain, 300th caps, a massive game for her and for this program. So that hopefully Canada can give her the due reward of winning this game. But pretty strong lineup otherwise. Looking at the bench, Canada allowed 5 subs, obviously with the new tournament protocols. You have to like that. You know, I'm seeing Eveline Vienne, Jade Riviere, Deanne Rose, Adriana Leon, Julia Grosso, Vanessa Gilles. There's a lot of options there. If Canada's getting the lead, you got a good center back in Gilles. But if you need goals, you can get someone like Vienne, Leon. You know, Riviere can obviously, you can throw Riviere in at right back, move Lawrence up the field. You got Deanne Rose. So there's a lot of good options on the bench too, if needed, based on how this game goes. If Canada needs a goal, you can kind of go to a 4-2-4, something a little more attacking. You need defense, you can go to kind of a 3-5-2. And having that flexibility will be huge for this Canadian team because they've kind of made that a part of their identity so far this year under Bev Priestman.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the names that I'm quite excited to see back in the lineup is Kadisha Buchanan. Of course, she wasn't there for the friendlies just a few games ago, and Canada didn't do all that well. And she's back in the lineup. She broke onto the scene in the 2015 World Cup with Canada when she had the red streak through her hair. Definitely became a bit of a cult hero back then, and she a very solid center back, one of the best in the world. She's done incredible in the French league, and I think it's just incredibly valuable to have her and Jill at the back line for Canada. Two incredible defenders, and I could even see Canada keeping a clean sheet against a Japanese team that is quite organized and can score. We've become familiar with this Japanese team over the last 10, 15 years. And yes, the Japanese team is getting a little older, still a lot of familiar names on that team, but they are not a team that is going to pick you apart. They're a team that can get behind you technically, but I think with Canada's defenders, especially the young defenders like Buchanan, that won't be much of a problem.
Well, I think Canada's, they're going to win and lose by their central defenders. I think looking at this year, they can hang with anyone on their day. I mean, we saw Shalina Zadorsky and Vanessa Gilles take on the U.S. back in February in their first game as a pair together with no Kadisha Buchanan, and they really kept a clean sheet right till the end where Rose Lavelle broke through, and that's been a theme all year. They've kept clean sheets. They've done it against top teams, be it Zadorsky and Gilles or Buchanan when she came in back in June. Obviously, she missed the first few camps with injury and COVID-related absences, etc. So it's good for Canada that they've got such rock-solid center backs. I think that's going to be how defense first. It's kind of the mentality you go for, but at the other end of the field, there are goals in this team. Can they be unearthed? Who knows? Will we see a 0-0 like we saw in June, or will we see some of the fireworks they showed in their closed door friendly? Who knows? But I do think there are goals in this team. But defensively, they're going to have to keep things tight and let the offense get the time they need to figure it out. But a big part of the goal is obviously, as we see here on screen, Christine Sinclair, Captain Canada. It's going to be an amazing milestone to reflect upon it as she enters her fourth Olympic Games. I think it's her 10th major tournament for Canada. Uh, the fact she's not having 300 caps, 186 goals, all at 38, still ticking at a very, very high level, despite what her age might suggest. This is going to be a big game for Christine Sinclair. And it's worth noting that in 2021, she's yet to score for Canada, but not only that, yet to pick up even an assist for Canada. So, what better way to break the goose egg than with another Olympic goal? Obviously, she's scored many a time in Olympic games and Olympic qualifiers. She tends to like to score in these big games. What better way to get off the get that goosebump, or I guess that goose egg out of the way, and get a goal or an assist or even both today, marking her 300th cap in a way that only I'm sure Sinclair could do, and that's by getting on the score sheet.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at the numbers that are on the board there, and they speak for themselves. 300 caps, it's almost unheard of in this time of international football. 186 international goals. Yes, Ronaldo scored a bunch of goals at the Euros. Yes, a bunch of Twitter accounts said that he was coming close to the all-time goal scoring record, but props to ESPN FC. He's clearly not. They pointed that out, and Christine Sinclair rightly at the top of that. I do think she probably gets back on the score sheet in this game tonight slash this morning, wherever you're watching from. Of course, it's about 7 p.m. in Tokyo. But if you take a look at Christine Sinclair and how she's playing now versus how she played, say, in the lead up and at the 2012 Olympics, she's not creating the chances by herself anymore. The good thing, though, is she can still finish the chances. She hasn't lost that finishing touch, and the team around her is better. The team in 2012 could not necessarily create the chances that they can now. Now you have someone like Deanne Rose, Nichelle Prince, Janine Becky, Jessie Fleming. Those players weren't there in 2012. And so you have that chance creation. And if you get the ball to Sinclair, I don't want to compare her to Cavallini too much. But if you look at the men's side, Cavallini is scoring on a certain type of opportunity, and Sinclair can score on basically any opportunity, but she just can't create those chances for herself anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't want her to be creating those chances. She does have that in her pocket at times, but you don't want her dropping deep and getting out of what she can do, because it's at this stage, at this kind of level, this kind of games. Maybe if you're playing a smaller team, you can get away with letting her roam, but you're at a point where you've got talented players. Let Janine Becky be the one to get Christine Sinclair the ball, or Nichelle Prince, or Ashley Lawrence from deep position. So not I don't think it's certainly in terms of talent, I don't doubt anything that Sinclair can't do at this age. Instead, maybe aside from run around for full speed for 90 minutes, but even then, that's always tough at any age. But I think for Canada, it's going to be interesting to see how some of their younger faces at this Olympics end up doing. They've got some new debutantes, quite an experienced squad of their 22. They've got, I think it's the official total is 13 returnees, 15 if you include past alternates. But some debutantes from the 22 player squad include Kaylin Sheridan in goal. Obviously not starting today. Adriana Leon, the surprise one of the older debutantes, but deserved nonetheless. Evelyn Vian up top, Julia Grosso in midfield, Vanessa Gilles at the back, Jade Riviere at fullback, and Gabrielle Carl, who was an alternate in 2016 at Rio, but didn't end up making the squad. And then obviously Jordan Hoytema. Lots of good young names there, and a few that, even if none of them are, say, starting today, there's a few that could play some roles off the bench. I look at Jade Riviere. She was excellent in 2020 at the CONCACAF Olympic qualifiers for this tournament, scored a worldie of a goal, which is overall very active. Did it with Jordan Hoytema, not in the squad tonight at all, but scored a lot of goals there. Someone like Evelyn Vian has been one of Canada's best players this year for both club and country. What a storyline that would be, getting her off the bench and scoring her first Olympic goal. So those are a few amongst many names to highlight on this debutantes list, but it's going to be interesting to see how these players perform in this big environment that some of them are going to be facing for the first time. Obviously, a few of these players have played in the World Cup back in 2019 and and other events. But this is the Olympics is a different beast. It's a special beast. It's going to be interesting to see how they cope with that.
Yeah, I spoke about one of the players on this list when you were having your technical difficulties before the show, and Kalen Sheridan. And Sheridan, rumored transfer to PSG, stellar season with New York, New Jersey, Gotham so far. Fantastic piece actually written on Just Women's Sports by Lucas Weiss just a couple days ago. But Kalen Sheridan, she's going to get in some games in these tournaments. Yes, Aaron McLeod has played every game before in these tournaments in the past, but if you can have a 1A, 1B sort of goaltending situation, it only proves benefits for Canada. And I think that's what they have. Maybe even a 1C with the fact that they have Labe, Sheridan, and McLeod, of course. McLeod still coming off that injury. She is fit, but she is on the wrong side of 30, and she has that experience. I think it's good, especially considering the 8 debutantes we have here. But in terms of a bit of a 1-2 punch for Canada in net, it is Kalen Sheridan and Stephanie Labe. And I do want to get to that because Labe starting today. What do you sort of see from her over, say, one of the other keepers?
It's experience and ability. I think Labe, in terms of ability, the debate could be there into Sheridan and Labe. Obviously, McLeod at this stage of her career still kicking strong at 38. Still has a lot of gas in the tank, which surprising. Some wonder might she retired, gone through her knee injuries, multiple bad knee injuries, but it really shows her passion for the game. But it really, for me, looking at this debate, McLeod at this stage of the career for the national team, third goalkeeper can play if needed, but more. Just Sheridan and Labe are that good. Obviously, Labe playing for Rosengard in Sweden, very good club there. Had a good run in Champions League, good run at the domestic level. She's got good technical ability, good shot stopper, good decent with her feet. You know what you're getting from her. It's solid. Plus, she's got the experience factor. Played in the Olympics before, been in that Olympic environment. There's a lot to like there, but someone like Sheridan, she's a wild card. She's a very very talented shot stopper, one of the best in NWSL. She has a knack for pulling off highlight reel saves. She got a big frame. She kind of offers you a bit of a tantalizing and potential looking at what she brings to the table. So I think she's going to definitely be the goalie of the future. I think when after this Olympics, I mean, Labe last year during the pandemic said her plan was to retire after these Olympics. Will that end up remaining the case? Who knows? You never know with international soccer. Sometimes they say they'll retire, sometimes they'll get coaxed back into it. But if you're Canada, as much as you'd like her to stay, if she's willing to, she's great to have around as a 1A, 1B option. If she chooses to hang up her gloves, and she certainly earned that right at that point to choose, Sheridan is a very good option to have. But as for these Olympics, why not give Sheridan a run against Chile? Obviously, different caliber of opposition. Chile did look quite good today. I was quite impressed with them. Maybe someone like Sheridan, you give him a run on Chile. If she plays good, all of a sudden it opens up the debate heading into that GB game. But in a tournament like this, if the question is even, advantage tends to go to the veteran. So because of that, I think Labe does get the slight nod for now, but I would like to see Sheridan at least have a chance to make this discussion interesting.
Yeah, I would like it to be that 1A, 1B sort of situation because it's games in a tight amount of time. Of course, this one happening before the opening ceremonies because they have to stretch out the tournament. You can't be playing every day for a football tournament, but I would still like to see a bit of changes. And I think for McLeod as well, if it's not necessarily getting into a game, it would be fantastic just to see her on the bench and give her that Olympic experience one more time. Sure, there's no fans. It's a very different Olympic experience than she would have experienced in London or in Rio. But it is still something that she can write on her resume, write in her history in Canadian soccer as one of the best goalkeepers. But Canada has fantastic goalkeeping depth right now. Once those two retire, it's Sheridan and it gets a little iffy, right? Like it could get iffy pretty quickly for the Canadian team.
I mean, there are a few names to keep an eye out. Two off the top of my head: Riley Foster over at Liverpool.
For
Obviously,
sure,
they're
for
still
sure.
in the second division, unfortunately, but there's certainly if they can continue to invest in their club, surely a matter of time before they're back in the first division. She's a very well liked, almost cult hero there for Liverpool. She made some I think last year she made a penalty save despite being injured in a big game. So I think Foster's still very young, one to watch. If not, um, there are a few other ones kicking around in NWSL right now. The names may or may not come to me right now. I am blanking quite hard,
It
but there are
it, it is almost 4 a.m. for you. I don't blame you.
it is 4 in the morning, and I have been up. I've not gone to bed at all, so the names might or might not come to back to me. But the Riley Foster is certainly a name that sticks out amongst a few others that are kicking around in the NWSL and at other levels. And goalkeepers tend to peak late, so even if there's a name that isn't there yet, there will be names coming up. But maybe as we already near the end of the show here, we'll probably end this, maybe a few minutes before 30, just to let people get set up. Before we go into predictions, should we quickly dive into players to watch?
Yeah, I think we have touched on them so far, but Christine Sinclair, of course, how could you not put her on this list? She's the best soccer player Canada's ever had at this point, even better than Alfonso Davies. I'll put that out there for what she's done in her career. I don't know what that'll look like by the end of both careers, but Christine Sinclair, definitely the most successful player that Canada has ever produced. Of course, pride of Burnaby, British Columbia, and used to be kicking around Swangard Stadium, one of the nicest pitches in Western Canada. Kadisha Buchanan, I spoke about her. Very, very solid at the back. Basically, no defender in the world is better than her. And then Jessie Fleming. Sure, she didn't play all that much with Chelsea. She didn't win the Champions League with Chelsea, but still, what a season to come out of the NCAA and be able to play some minutes in the WSL.
Yeah, lots of good names there. I mean, Christine Sinclair kind of speaks for itself at this point. Player to watch. Hard not to miss her at this stage of her career. Just she's earned that right. I think hopefully again on her 300th cap she can find a way to get on the score sheet. I wouldn't be surprised if she does. Kadisha Buchanan, Canada's defensive success relies on her, but also keep an eye on her for set pieces. She has a flair for the dramatic. Scored Canada's opening goal at the 2019 World Cup with a nice header. Buchanan will find a way to get involved somewhere or another. And based on what we saw from her in a Canada shirt in June, there's a lot to be excited. And then Jessie Fleming for me is an interesting one. I mean, for me, before this year, she was probably my most important Canadian midfielder. But as this year's gone on, it's become more and more pronounced the more she plays. And just seeing her Chelsea stats, despite not playing as much as she could have, she was one of the best transitional midfielders in the whole league in her limited minutes. Like she was a transitional machine. And this Canadian teams sometimes before struggled to get the ball from their defenders to their forwards. Well, if they can find a way to get Fleming in that sort of shuttler two-way, getting the ball up the field role. She has the tools, she has the numbers to back up playing in a role like that. So hopefully she is very involved. But shall we dive just right into predictions as we've kind of rolled through this express third sub pregame live show, 3:30 in the morning edition. For the Olympics as we get adjusted to this very strange schedule that awaits us for the next month or so.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for it. I am working for the CBC, so I won't be able to do all of these pre-game shows. I know that there's a few of these games that I am working on the broadcast production, but very excited to be able to do this show for the first game. I know you and I only decided to do this pretty well at the last minute. But for a prediction, I guess I'll go first. And I'm saying Christine Sinclair is going to bag a couple today, and Canada's going to come out 3-1. I don't think it's a clean sheet, even though I said it could be at the start of the show. I do think Canada concedes, and I think that's good. Just a bit of a wake-up call and get their defensive system sorted out in this first game against a good technical Japanese team. But 3-1, Sinclair gets 2 goals, 187 and 188.
Oh boy, I think home team always tough to bet against them, but I think I'm going to go 1-0 Canada. I think their defense holds strong. They make it nervy. They bag the one they need to get the 3 points. Kind of set up a crash course for them in Great Britain in that last game for seeding, but who knows? I am not counting out this Japan team. I think it's certainly going to be close. As seen there, the rankings very tight. Great Britain obviously doesn't at the moment not really existing as a team. Obviously, they were cobbled together for the Olympics since England doesn't participate in the Olympics. Because they obviously went through England's qualification spot. 19 of their 22 players are English, 2 Scottish players and a Welsh player thrown in there. So I'm expecting big things from England. They are Great Britain. Sorry, they showed that this morning. Japan's the wild card. how good of a job are they doing transitioning through their squad. And Chile this is also a very solid team. So for Canada, these first two games are huge. There's not a This group is probably the most balanced on paper, I'd have to say right now, and I think we saw that this morning. So for Canada, they need to get points on the board in any way possible. So hopefully they can pick up the 3 and get the 1-0 victory that both Seb and I are predicting. Interestingly enough, I mean, if I'm gonna toot my own horn a bit, I was Sam and I for all our Whitecaps listeners. I was the one who called the draw. I mean, I didn't predict a 0-0 draw that would nearly put me to sleep, but I am riding a bit of a hot streak with that result. So let's see if I can keep it up this morning.
Well, I think that's probably it for the Third Sub live show. Ben Steiner in place of Sam Rowe. Sam, I think, still sleeping out on the West Coast. I've been up basically all night here in Toronto. Alex in also on the West Coast, but that's it because it's 6:27 and 6:30 is kickoff between Canada and Japan to start the 2020 in 2021 Olympic Women's Football Tournament.
All right, see you.